Shifting focus, Syria is on the boil. Months after Bashar al-Assad was toppled, violent clashes have killed more than 1,000 people in the country in what is one of the deadliest incidents in Syria since the civil war began 14 years back. Gunmen loyal to Assad ambushed a Syrian security patrol which set off the clashes. The fall of Bashar al-Assad, remember, who belongs to the minority Alawite community, led to tensions between the country's Sunni population and Assad supporters, as well as other minorities of the country. Most of the dead are reportedly from the Alawite community, who live largely in the country's coastal province. A spate of revenge killings, as they are being called, have been taking place since the 6th of March, with pro-government groups clashing with security forces in the coastal cities of Latakia and Tartus, its ripple effects being felt in Damascus too. Videos circulating on social media show dead bodies on the streets, and women, many say, were reportedly paraded naked. Syria's interim president, meanwhile, has pledged to punish the perpetrators. UNHRC chief Volker Turk has urged for an immediate halt to the killing of civilians. United States has also weighed in, with Marco Rubio saying, and I quote him, United States condemns the radical Islamist terrorists, including foreign jihadis, that murdered people in western Syria in recent days. Syria's interim authorities must hold the perpetrators of these massacres against Syria's minority communities accountable, unquote. To make matters worse, the interference of foreign powers, including the US, Russia, Israel, Turkey and Iran, backing various armed groups in Syria, has led to domestic tussle to become a geostrategic playground for countries. So what is this situation all about? Let's decode this for you on Global Mirror. I'm joined by Dr. Wael Awad. He is a senior journalist and a leading voice on West Asian issues. I'm also joined by Dr. Shubhda Chaudhary, founder, Middle East Insights Platform. Good evening and namaskar to both of you. Dr. Awad, let me begin with you. You know, this seems to be a rather complex situation for a lot of people who don't really understand what has been going on in Syria, particularly considering that it's not just a domestic tussle anymore. There are lots and lots of powers involved, and there are lots of factions that are involved in it. But was this expected, especially after the Assad regime fall?
Thank you. I think you have already touched the crux of the problem, that it is the same countries who have supported the counter-terrorism measures to fight terrorists all over the world. They are the same countries now supporting a regime change in Syria. Because once they were against Assad and Assad was removed, we all built hope that the President Ahmad al-Shara or Abu Muhammad al-Julani could bring stability into Syria. But the problem that we had around 55 to 60 jihadist, Takfiri, Salafist group fought with him alongside, and most of them 60 to 70,000 who have no relation, no cultural attachment to the Syrian sentiment, have been posted in certain area of the coastal area of Syria. So what's happening in Syria is absolutely a genocide happening against the minorities, and the government may be taking the vote or form the commission to fight back and to find out the fact-finding matter. But the fact of the matter remains that these killings are going unabated, and all these videos which you are watching and which we have been seeing daily, it's carried out by the same jihadists who are happily photographing, killing, and making these people, a victim, which there is nobody in any fighting uniform. It's simply a civilians walking in the street, collecting all of them and shooting them blank in the head. So all this shows that the United States and the UN now have shown some kind of interest to find out the fact-finding measures. But can they achieve their objective of stopping the sabotage and genocide? I think what we are witnessing is another Rwanda or maybe Yugoslavia and Syria.
Okay. Dr. Shubhda Chaudhary, do you want to come in on this? The fact that, there are foreign powers that are involved. US, Dr. Awad mentioned, there is, of course, the Russian angle to it as well. There are other powers as well, whether you talk about Israel or Iran. There are several foreign influences to the situation that is unfolding in Syria. The fact that after the fall of the Assad regime, there was, Israel bombing Syria. There is already a Russian military base in Latakia where this entire violent crisis is playing out. How do you see that really moving forward from here on, considering that now it doesn't remain a domestic tussle at all, and perhaps it never was to begin with?
Yes, first of all, thank you for calling me. And I do agree that Syria for the past 14 years was never a domestic tussle at all. Right from the very beginning of 2011, there were so many regional and international actors involved in the Syrian civil war. Now,
Mm,
if we want to make it understandable for the Indian audience, Syria is not or is similar to the size of, say, Rajasthan or Madhya Pradesh. Now, there are three levels of
mm,
antagonism. To start with, first we have to ensure that we know that Ahmad al-Sharrah, who is the head of HTS, does not have control over his own military. Second, he is
yeah.
going on 17th of March to Brussels for EU donations because UK and US, the lifting of sanctions and how the financial longevity of Syria will be maintained is still questionable. The first local paradigm is that there are a lot of minorities within Syria, be it Alawites, be it Christians, be it
Mm,
Ismailis, be it Armenians, be it Circassians, many minorities, be it Druze. The Kurds, for example, are in the northeastern part of Syria. The HTS started
yeah.
from the Idlib province, where they governed for 7 years. The Syrian National Army is also over there. There's no fact finding commission on what kind of life did prisoners under the rule of HTS and Idlib had. Next, we come to
Mm,
Druze. Druze are in the southern part of Syria. Druze are also involved with the IDF in
okay.
Israel and in the population of Israel. The second level is the regional level where Israel, Iran, Russia, Hezbollah, Turkey are involved. And the third level
Mm,
is the
mm,
international, which is United States on one hand, China, Russia on the other hand. The issue of what will happen now, Ahmad al-Sharrah has given two speeches already. In the first and second speeches, he has talked about how there has to be a social contract and reconciliation. He's making a transnational body for justice in which there are two Alawites, one
mm,
woman representatives. He has also given an order that no video filming of massacres should be allowed anymore
yes.
yesterday. The point here
Mm,
is that no matter what kind of social contract that HTS is planning to head, their associations with Turkish intelligence or different kind of foreign intelligence is still a matter of doubt. That is why a lot of minorities do not trust HTS. The Alawites who are being killed, the revenge
mm,
killings that are happening, a lot of them have stated that the people who come to rape, kill, or burn are in civilian clothes. They say they work under HTS, but what is the
okay.
proof? So the civil war
Mm,
scenario will
okay.
continue. What is very important for HTS is to take into account there are so many civil society organizations that have been collecting atrocities committed by the Assad regime and many others in Syria for the past more than 14 years. A lot of Syrian diaspora are also involved in it. HTS has to work in tandem with
Mm.
them if they want to have any kind of
Okay, so that clearly
transnational
isn't
justice.
happening, Dr. Shubda Chaudhary.
That won't
Yeah,
happen. It is
yeah.
too
Dr. Awad,
easy
the
to
HTS,
expect. It's too easy to expect that just
yeah,
as a
yeah.
civil war
Dr.
ends and
Awad,
then
you
a
want to
new
come in on
government
this? The
comes into
fact that,
power.
uh, you know, yeah, HTS, Dr. Awad has consistently stated that Alawites will be part of new Syria, but in action that clearly isn't happening. Do you see any hope in this, getting resolved, or it's only going to get into a deeper conflict that Syria has already witnessed?
It
Well, I
is,
think
as Sir
what's
said,
happening in Syria, what's happening in Syria is actually these are groups who think that they can turn Syria into an Islamic Emirate state. And in fact, the President al-Shara is trying to bring unified all the Syrian people under his arm. If we listen to what he speaks, is definitely he's speaking like a true Syrian. But if you listen what these people doing on the ground, they have no connection with the new government is doing.
Mm,
You cannot bring factions and groups into to make them an army into a Syrian to rule a country. Nobody can govern a country with this small group who have no connection with the Syrian people. You just can't give them citizenship to make them a Syrian, that they can be integrated into the society. These people have an agenda, and this agenda is to do an ethnic cleansing. The Druze is protected by the Israelis in the south. The Kurd is protected in the northeastern by the American and the British, and the Alawite left on their own. It's not only the Alawite. There is Alawite, there are Christian being killed, there are Ismaili being killed. There are also moderate Sunni people have been killed. Remember, we had more than 4 million Syrian who have been migrated for the last 15 years into Latakia and Tartus and Jabli from other parts of Syria. These are Sunnis who have been living in the society. What I'm trying to say is nobody can clean any group and leave on the other by killing or ethnic cleansing. So therefore, there is no way for the Syrian except to sit down together and have a Syrian solution. First, they were saying it is the Iranian influence, so Israel was fighting with the Iranian. Now it is Turkey who is influencing Syria. It is a fight between Israel and Turkey. So Syrian turned into a pose and the chess games of the big powers, where the American and the Israeli having a project of Syria to disintegrate it, to weaken Syria and take over rule over Syria, because Israel destroyed all the infrastructure of Syria, left a small-scale arms in the hand of the current government, who are some of them taking advantage of the law and order, and they're destabilizing the Syrian population. So what we are witnessing now is a big power fight over Syria. We need a Syrian solution. We need the UN Security Council resolution. What's the American objective in this project actually is to make sure that many minorities got killed in Syria in the next 6 months, and then they will come to intervene inside Syria under humanitarian law, the R2P, right to protection, like they did in Rwanda and Yugoslavia, and they will be the humane who's saving humanity. And we know that they are the same people who supported all this group to go into Syria and take over Assad. This is the situation, and what they are going for a regional war.
Awad,
Israel wanted to expand. And they expand at the cost of Syria, Iraq,
Dr. Awad, can I also
Lebanon,
understand from you then, you know, you're talking about the United States of America and the role that it has played in the situation so far in Syria. But Dr. Awad, do you think that might change with the Donald Trump presidency, or do you think that it's going to continue how it was under the Biden administration?
Well, there is the Biden administration, and the US aid have been already, there is lots of talk about funding of Al-Qaeda, funding of IS, funding of bin Laden, funding of Taliban. All this money went from the American taxpayers into the hand of the terrorist group. So I think if Trump seriously is going to abandon the US aid organization and start having no war in the region, yes, we might find the changes. But can you change Syrian regime from bad to the worse? I think it's high time we need to see what is exactly the American objective in the region to play a peace broker in this part of the world. The Russians played their part of the game. They have already surrendered Assad, and they give Assad back to, they give the country to the Turkey, and Turkey now is trying to play havoc inside the region. Where we are heading, I think the Americans understand that there is a big game to play. If Iran tomorrow, they are attacking Iran by Israel and the United States, then we are going for a regional war. And I think that will destabilize peace and security, the global peace and security.
And that is something that West Asia has not been able to achieve entirely for a long time, for a consistent period of time. Dr. Shubhda Chaudhary, the fact that it needs stability, it needs growth and prosperity, that clearly hasn't been happening consistently in West Asia for a long duration. But as far as the US and Russian role is concerned, Dr. Shubhda Chaudhary, how do you see that dynamic playing out, considering the fact that, you know, Donald Trump is seen as somebody who's close to Vladimir Putin? So those dynamics that were playing out as far as the differences between American and Russian role were concerned, will they now fizzle out?
You know, Shreya, it's said that when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. So the point is that there was a 2015 interview of Donald Trump in which he clearly said that Assad was a much more safer option for Israel than a regime change. Now, the point of lifting sanctions over Syria by Trump is actually questionable. It's very, very fragile. But at the same time, we have to take into account that there's a lot of pressure also because 6,000 Syrians have migrated to Lebanon. There's pressure on the Jordanian borders.
Yeah.
The acts which have been done by the militias have been condemned by the Gulf countries, Egypt, and many other Arab countries. The reason why Middle East is not stable is because of the military-industrial complex, the deep state, and the profit mongering by the black market that is generated. Also remember that ISIS is still active in Syria in the Homs Desert and a large province of it. So it is made and created by the foreign powers in such a way that the discomfort, chaos, bloodbath continues. Also, do keep in mind that in northeastern Syria, 95% of Syria's oil and natural gas supply is under the Kurdish militias. So, who is going to make profit of it? How the profit will be made? The question that has to be said very clearly is that how much control does Jolani have over his own militants or his own army? Is he able to create a very cohesive army, a social contract, or is it just a shift from the Islamist attire to a Western suit for the image of power brokerage and nothing more? But at the same time, what is happening in Syria will have wider consequences. Every Syrian right now is fearing a partition.
Sure.
And that is going to be for more than 14 years. They have lived with so much of injustice, bloodbath, fear, and panic. So Israel, Turkey, all the other regional powers trying to take a piece of Syria and not doing justice to the humanity of the Syrians itself is a deplorable condition. At the same time, India, ONGC Videsh, has also 60% stake in the Sector 26 block of Syria, which has natural gas supplies. We had 97 Indians in Syria who were evacuated. The Indian embassy in Damascus is still functioning. But with the current developments, we do not know. HTS has not applied any kind of diplomatic agreement with South Asian countries. So how would that then have a ripple effect on South Asia?
Yeah.
Is also a question that we have to think about.
Right. Yes, I think these are important, crucial questions that need an answer, but it's not immediately that we'll get answers to these very important questions. But Dr. Awad, you talked about how Syrians need to find a Syrian solution to this crisis. What would that be? Is it even possible, considering the fact, Dr. Awad, that there are multiple foreign players, the formation of certain factions, certain groups that are prevailing right now in Syria have been due to these very foreign powers? Is it therefore then, possible for them to be independent from those foreign influences?
Absolutely not. I mean, this is why we have been calling the international community is a shame that they're unable to take a decision on Syrian issue because the Syrian people are paying the price. And for the last 14 years, I've been writing that we need a solution by the Syrian for the Syrians. Though therefore, there has been lots of intervention from the Russian, from the Iranian, from the American, the Turk, the British, the French, the Israelis, everybody name it, and they have been intervening in the Syrian affairs. And that's not a secret. We know that Syria has been the hot spot because it is the last in the countries on the Silk Route of the Chinese, where the American countering the Chinese Silk Route initiatives. And they also know that Syria is their meeting point between East and West. We know that Israel wanted to expand, and they have already taken 3 provinces of Syria because there is oil in the Golan being discovered. So there is no question that they're going to leave this territory easily. And they have not done even for the Syrian Golan, including Turkey, which is ambitious to bring back the Ottoman Empire, where de facto Khalifa Erdogan think he is the real Turkish Ottoman Empire. He's trying to expand and annex part of Syria. Iran may be out of the picture, but we are witnessing now more of an Israeli-Turkish fighting, because what they have done to keep Assad out of power by trying to bring him back into the OIC or the Arab fold was only at the cost of keeping distance from the Russian and from the Iranian, and he paid his price and he was removed. Similarly now, because of the Turkish influence and in Syria, they are trying to keep Turkey away from Syrian influence because Israel is not happy with Turkish influence inside Syria, with the Islamists taking part in the power. And Egypt now is vulnerable. Saudi Arabia is more vulnerable, including the Jordanians are more vulnerable if these Islamic forces start expanding into their territories. So destabilizing of the Middle East is on the objective of the main superpower. And I think what we are not witnessing, the unfortunate part that we are playing at the hand of these superpowers voluntarily and willingly to go and kill our own people. I am from a Syrian country where my people are getting killed. I have been fighting for democracy and for aspiration of the people. But that is the changes I really wanted to see, people getting killed at a blank point. It's not 1,000 people who have been killed, by the way. It's 8,000 and still counting. I know I'm getting the figure. We are getting village after village. Who is doing the killing then? If these people have been asked, you throw your arms and then you send some faction to kill the Syrian people. They are definitely, most of the foreign powers who have visited Syria are very much influenced among their intelligence, along with the terrorist organization, to create that scenario of Rwanda, of an ethnic cleansing in Syria, so they can intervene to destabilize the region. And I think that is the project of the American Western project, the Israeli project, and the Turkish project at the peak of its conflict.
All right. All right, we'll leave it there. Let's hope that there's some sort of stability comes into Syria, that all this violence and bloodshed ends. We really hope that Syrians do find a peaceful solution to the entire crisis that is playing out in this country for years now. Thank you very much to both of you, Dr. Awad and Dr. Shubhda Chaudhary, for joining us on Global Mirror and sharing your perspective. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on this broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye. Up next is Neha Koshi with Beyond the Headlines.